Getting a repair done on your rental property as a tenant can be absolutely heartbreaking. We're going to talk about what your rights are and why this happens. Stay tuned.
Morning, Mark.
Billy?
I was getting worried for a second then. We were off air without a topic. And I thought, wow, this is
it was a bit stressful.
616 episodes and we've never had this situation before. But look, we got there in the end.
Yeah, you almost gave up, Billy. You just fell into a ball.
Bits and bobs it was going to be. But no, we've got something again for you. Another day, another episode.
The show must go on.
Famous quote. Yeah, I agree. We got another interesting one to talk about. Getting a repair done, it can be a headache, even more so over Christmas. Yeah. Is this a combination, or does this issue stem from a rubbish agent, landlord, or tenant?
It's hard, and it can be, and probably, I reckon, the biggest complaint that I get as an agent and agency owner, it's always on the bloody repairs. There's always a dispute around that, and it's heartbreaking because it can wear a tenant down. You know, you're asking, you're getting no answer. Happens. You don't know whether it's a shit agent, the agent's not communicating to you, or the agent's not communicating to the landlord, or both, or what the hell is happening. It's very, very common. Big problem.
Yeah, it is difficult, and some of them do drag on. Most landlords are pretty easygoing with, repairs in general. People understand that property maintenance is important and wear and tear is factored into as an expense. But we talked a little bit about trying to fix issues that were there before you moved into the property. And that's sometimes where a little bit of the the reluctancy from the owner's perspective is, because these issues have been lived with before. Do they need to be fixed now? Whose responsibility is it to fix them? And so you refer back to the legislation, which of course runs things the right way, but it can drag on, and tenants sometimes can't understand why, and owners can't understand why it's the way it is, and we're caught in the middle sometimes, just relaying this message on.
And look, I think a lot of it, Billy, and I do have to stress, guys, a lot of it's communication. A lot of it, the way that it's been framed up, or the failure of the way that it's been framed up. So I think it's really good communication between the tenant as to what their rights are, first of all, where it should start, and what's reasonable and not reasonable really has to be communicated properly. And because it can, the simplest things can derail the greatest of relationships. So I think, good communication, good documentation on behalf of the tenant, good explanation. I don't mind picking up a phone. I think sometimes a lot of our industry hides behind an email. What's in writing? But a good old-fashioned pick up the phone. Or if shit really hits the fan, just a good old-fashioned visit. Yes, believe it or not, face-to-face, just dropping in to say, look, I'll come and have a look and check it out. We'll take it from there. It's communication.
I reckon in some cases, Mark, that's the only way to do it. The amount of times that I've had like a mold report come back, which is obviously taken really seriously. We're talking about people's, well-being here. The only way you can sometimes get a grasp on what the situation is like is just having a quick pop over, 5 minutes, and then you can refer straight back to the landlord, say you've been there. It's no better terms of communication.
Massive. So comms is a big one, man. Comms is a big one. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a dispute there with your tenant or your landlord or your agent, you've got it, before it turns to shit, get belly to belly or get a lot of information and before both parties, and a lot of communication before both parties, before the bomb blows up.
Yeah. You want to know another way I see these go wrong, Mark, is people reporting issues like a while ago. Again, we'll go back to the mold example. Say you have a bad winter, a lot of rain, you get some mold come in, it gets reported, it gets fixed, to do with the agent, strata, but then you might get a new agent or a new landlord, and then they just assume that all the knowledge is already there. They don't give you the time of day to report it properly, give you the photos that you need, and then it all blows up after a couple of weeks and it's not been sorted because the progress has been really slow from the start. It's assumed knowledge. So
Absolutely.
Key to the story is more information as much as you can get in there, and photograph everything, because that makes our lives so much easier. And obviously relay that straight onto the landlord and have open communication. Nothing behind the curtains.
Absolutely. Good morning to Luke Moroney. I'm just looking for Luke's buy. Oh, good. He did it. Yeah, if the property manager is bringing you a repair, it should be done. If not, you have the wrong property manager. It's true, but you know what? In the defence of the landlord, when would you see a repair, Billy, that you're thinking like, yeah, nah, that's you're really pushing it there. That was there when you took the property, or yeah, no, that's a bit of overkill.
Funny enough, we don't get a huge amount of them, to be honest. One repair that I saw come in and I thought, wow, this is going to be expensive, was to do with a pool in the back garden. Now, this tenant wanted to upgrade the heating system on the pool. And you look at the email and have a quick read and you think, all right, how do you go about this? Now, the tenant was really reasonable in the fact that he wanted to pay for the heating upgrade, as his kids wanted to use the pool a little bit more. We got the quote done by the pool company that we engaged and does the monthly service to get a quote. Numbers came back and he was happy with the heating side of the quote, but the pool technician said, you've really got to upgrade your filtration system, which is about $2,500. And landlord was happy to cover that part with all the companies doing the same work, but he was happy to cover that part, and the tenant to cover the main part with the upgrade. So I think a negotiation in that sort of instance was a good way to go about it. It was an expensive, $2,500. It's expensive for the landlord as well as the tenant, but it was easy to resolve and easy to organize, because the tenant could understand the owner didn't want to put about 10 grand into it. So instead, met him halfway almost, and yeah, got worked out, and now he's got the upgrade he wanted.
Yeah. Just a comment from Akala there, Guln. Many agents are lazy to report. What do you reckon that?
Look, there's a lot of maintenance comes in, and I think the wrong kind of agent would dismiss it, or go back to the tenant and not pass it on. I think it's so important as an agent. That's what you're employed to do, is to maintain the property manager, not just collect rent. So it's a fundamental part of our job. And if you don't hear from an agent once a year to report something, I'd be a little bit concerned, unless you've got a bit of a gem. I've seen probably one or two properties through my consistent ones that I'm looking after where there's it's just really low maintenance. But like everything, wear and tear, you've got to factor in the expense. So yeah.
And I've got to say something to Akalad. I don't think, and let's think about the shittest agent and the agent. I think that it generally makes its way, even with a shit agent, to the landlord. But it's a bit like a tennis match. The agent, I think a shit agent almost calls it a game over if the ball's not served back by the landlord. So I think what you'll often find is that it is making its way to the landlord. The landlord's like, nah, it's not going to be done. And this is where it goes wrong. The agent's not reporting that back and communicating that well to the tenants. Because the tenant's got rights as well. If the tenant needs a repair done, that's a rightful repair, and the landlord says no, the agent comes back and says no, agent's not going to spend the money. Sorry, landlord's not going to spend the money. There's still avenues to pursue. You can still go through like a tribunal situation for $55 and say, I really want the repair done. My point is that agents have got to communicate more, better, accurately, and you've also got to not only look after the rights of your landlord, but if a tenant is communicated with and explained everything in detail by the owner, often you can put the fire out. But if you don't go back to your tenant, it can just blow up in your bloody face, and that's where I think agents get the shit reputation. That's where landlords get the shit reputation, because I think it just blows up in everyone's face, and it just looks like laziness, but it's more often a conscious decision where a landlord goes, I'm not going to do the repair, and an agent's too scared or not efficient enough to go back and man up and have that conversation with the tenant.
Yeah, agree. It's always an ongoing work in progress, keeping people in the loop, letting them know where things are at, because the smallest jobs, Mark, do take excessive amount of time sometimes. I mean, it's almost to the point where you say, let me just go on a Sunday, give me $200 cash and I'll do it myself. It's sometimes a smaller job as that, and it just takes far too long. But there, more often than not, there is a reason behind it. And yeah, you only fail yourself and the people you're working around if you're not passing on the reasoning why, because people obviously are patient when it's not a huge emergency, when they're kept in the loop, like anything.
Yeah, and look, I think the great thing about being that middle person is that you are the middle person. You've got the experience of volume, a landlord to do the job, or you can compel a tenant not have the job done just based upon your experience to all the other properties out there. That's the great thing about having an agent working for you in between. But I think basically just comparing it to what's reasonable, what's not. And look, we talked about tribunal before we came on air today. For $55, a landlord can take a tenant to tribunal. I should also vice versa. But if there's someone that's just not reasonable on one side or the other, $55 is it's a hell of a lot of time and not a lot of money, but it's a nice way to sort a problem out. For the record, out of 1,500, 1,600 odd properties that we're managing, we would go to the tribunal on behalf of a landlord. Probably, what do you reckon, Billy? Once a month,
really,
week?
Yeah, really not that much. I think in my personal experience, I've had out of a portfolio of 350 working with Cleo, the senior PM, and one other, we've been to tribunal twice. And again, for a variety of reasons throughout the office. In most cases, it's surprisingly not repairs. You've got non-payment of rent. You've got termination, tenant's not moved out. But you're not wrong. It's a good avenue to just get maybe not a quick result. I mean, obviously negotiation and communication at the start is the best way to go about it. But if someone's just not coming to the party, it's a good way to almost force a decision with a good mediator, another mediator, not just the agent, but another person in the middle. And it's not
someone who's got even more experience, because these guys are doing a hell of a lot more volume than a real estate agent, so they can see that they've been through that issue thousands of times before, because you do get appointed a mediator when you go to tribunal to work it out before you go in before the member. Jonathan Creek's also got a question. Before we go, does a property have to stay in the same condition as when you first rent it, or is there wear and tear understanding?
Without a doubt, wear and tear understanding. Like anything, you use it. You can't buy a brand new car and take it for a spin 6 months and then give it back the way it looks. Yeah, it shouldn't be all dented and rusted up, but yeah, it's not brand new anymore. So there's definitely wear and tear taken into account. But even that phrase,
fair wear and tear, I think, is also really, really important, because what's fair on a unit is what's fair on a house, is what's fair if it's a single person, is what's fair if it's a family of 8. I think you've got to consider fair wear and tear.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's so many different ideas of fair, and when you're accepting an application, Mark, if you've got a 1-bedroom unit and you're taking, a couple with a youngborn or versus just a single person, you've got to take that into account. So it's just about educating the landlord. Pets is another one. Yeah.
If you're gonna, as a landlord, if you're gonna accept a Rottweiler, you've got to accept fair wear and tear from a Rottweiler.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
With a little bit of with a lot of reason, or a touch of, not being silly about it. But anyway, that's the dirty topic today of getting repairs done, rubbish agent, landlord or tenant. It really does come down to communication, guys. And I think the difference between a brilliant agent and a shit agent, which is what we do, is how good that tennis game is played, whether you're serving back. And there's nothing more frustrating than you're hitting a ball over the net and then not getting it returned. So a tenant sends an email, tenant calls the agency, and here's 0. That just makes you crazy, 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 and that's not communicating.
That's it.
Thanks, guys. Hope we helped you today. See you, bud. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thanks, everyone.
See you, everyone. See you. Bye.